There's only one rule in this jungle. When the lion's hungry, he eats.
The Gentleman is the tale of an American drug kingpin who made his roots in England, his right-hand man, a rival triad group, and a journalist wanting to expose the whole ordeal. When tensions rise, this kingpin prepares to go to war and protect his territory. You may not have guessed it from his recent work, but Guy Ritchie is known for making slick crime capers with an underlying layer of dark humor. With his earlier films, such as Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch, he's garnered the reputation of a smart, witty writer with creative insight to keep audiences guessing. However, with the severe disappointing box office of King Arthur Legend of the Sword, it was clear he needed to do something a bit more low budget. When it comes to The Gentleman, it's a return to form. The elements that made his early movies a success can be found throughout this movie, with memorable characters, punchy dialogue, and slick editing that reveals a secret or two. The strength of this movie is primarily in the different characters, how they're used, and the way they're integrated into the story. While they all carry weight to how the plot turns out, some matter less to the story than others. Now, Guy Ritchie likes to use character interactions to move the plot forward, so I'll be doing something similar for this review. I'll be talking about the different characters, the actors portraying them, and how they fit into the overall narrative. The way the movie begins feels very much in the Guy Ritchie wheelhouse, complete with a Matthew McConaughey monologue.
If you wish to be the king of the jungle, it's not enough to act like a king. You must be the king. There can be no doubt, because doubt causes chaos and one's own demise.
That's why I always drive a Lincoln. Sorry, wrong gig.
Enter our protagonist. He's good looking, he's gorgeous, he's golden age, he's a proper handsome cunt. His name is Mickey Pearson.
McConaughey plays Michael Mickey Pearson, an American with gifted intellect who came to Oxford on a Rhodes Scholarship. He ends up getting into the narcotics business, selling marijuana to his fellow classmates. Years pass, and he ends up becoming the head of a criminal empire, growing weed in underground bunkers across the country. However, Mickey is looking to retire, which means a lot of moving parts have to be taken care of.
Problem with land in this country is there's not much of it. And there's public access even when it's supposed to be private. Footpaths, right to roam, bimblers, ramblers, badger lovers.
Another hallmark of a Guy Ritchie movie is the rapid editing of a certain sequence. It adds a bit of energy to what would otherwise be a mundane conversation.
And any other busy cunt with enough time on his hands to snip the green tweed of England. And they love a good chat and a hiss about anyone who's decided to mow his lawn without a license.
We'll see another example of this later.
You have to be creative.
See, all his farms are built underground of various plots of land, with Mickey paying rent to the various owners as a means of helping them keep their fortune. In return, Mickey will take care of any private matters, ones that the families would want out of the papers. Matthew McConaughey slips into the role like a glove, bringing his iconic southern twang with a mix of British phrasing. He's a man who appears laid back and slow to anger, but as a man with a ruthless past, his temper and violent behavior can flare up when needed. Take a look at this scene, where he's meeting with the leader of a Chinese triad named Lord George. When he finds out that he's been betrayed, he makes his enemies know that the price is high.
You're starting a war with me, George. You send your man Dry-Eye around my place to see if he can buy my business.
You raided one of my locations.
What the fuck were you thinking? You raided one of my locations. What the fuck were you thinking?
Compare that to earlier scenes in the movie, where he's calm, collected, and his voice rarely goes above normal speaking tone.
Is the ball peen hammer included?
Of course it is. Now let me show you the nails.
His sales prospect attracts a buyer named Matthew Berger, an American billionaire who seems to have a clean slate. As he would later find out, Berger has been trying to undermine his business so that he'd have to sell it at a lower price, only for Mickey to reveal that he's been one step of him the entire time. When he finds out that Berger and Dry-Eye have been collaborating, he makes it clear what he's looking for.
And that price, according to you, 400 minus 130, is $270 million.
Especially after Dry-Eye attempts an assault on his wife.
No amount of money on God's green earth can pay for that transgression, Matthew. No, for that. I want a pound of flesh.
flesh.
Penny short, or a gram shy, that freezer door does not open.
Of course, a kingpin needs some good soldiers under him, and a strong right-hand man to help him along. Otherwise, the whole thing falls apart.
I'm lost. Am I in the bath with Barry White's finger in my missus?
Be quiet, Brown. You were lost long before Barry White walked in.
Raymond is played by Charlie Hunnam, who previously worked with Guy Ritchie on King Arthur: Legend of the Sword, but he's better known as the lead for Sons of Anarchy. Charlie Hunnam has a very good tough guy look, so he's a natural fit for the character. Raymond understands that it's better to be diplomatic and soft-spoken, rather than just wave a bunch of guns around. When Raymond seeks after the missing daughter of a duke, the movie isn't afraid to get serious. The confrontation of the addicts in the apartment is a perfect highlight of just how intimidating he can be.
How'd you know my name? How the fuck does he know my name?
I know all your names. Apart from that little anomaly. I know where you went to school. I know who your parents are.
Raymond is a cold-blooded gangster with a soft but commanding voice. When he wants something, he wants it, even if he has to pull out the big guns.
How much? A full bag. Then I'll be gone.
Drop the fucking money and run, boy.
Right!
He's also wickedly clever. By the time Fletcher leaves his house after making his offer, Raymond has already made several moves that put him in the lead.
I knew you'd been following Michael. They're very similar, our jobs, only I'm better at it than you are. And when the scotch got into your cold veins, you lost the benefit of your sharp instincts.
Oh, goody. Another bottle.
See, I kept you there because I needed to know about Matthew and Dry Eye. It took us a while to find your insurance policies. Shoes off inside.
Yes, Mummy.
But it was made a lot easier after I planted a tracker in your shoe.
It's easy to see why he's Mickey's right-hand man. But in this game of chess, there's always one player who tries to slip on right by, makes a move that he thinks will get him on top, but ends up backfiring big time.
Now, Mickey has been cultivating a special relationship with the erudite, learned, and broad-minded Matthew Berger.
Jeremy Strong is phenomenal as Matthew Berger, playing the part of an unsuspecting yet cunning businessman. And what he lacks in physical prowess, he makes up for in banter. You don't see a whole lot of him in this movie, but that's what makes his appearances all the more special. When he shows up, you know something's about to go down. There's a look in his eyes that indicate he's got something up his sleeve. He tries to make himself amicable with his inquiries about how the business is run, what he's inheriting, even presenting a gift. But it's revealed that he's the one who caused the first domino to fall to try and undermine Mickey's empire.
Now that we have established the dilemma of our protagonist, let us turn to our antagonist. I talk, Raymondo, of Dry Eye.
Henry Golding plays Dry Eye, the underboss of Chinese gangster Lord George.
Like a Chinese James Bond. License to kill.
That's not exactly politically correct, Fletcher. If you've seen your fair share of Guy Ritchie, you know that he likes to cut back to previous events and reveal a new bit of information. He plays with that a lot in this movie, even describing events that didn't happen.
You're wrong, Fletcher. That's not how Michael works.
Yeah, I know. It's just having a bit of fun.
Yeah. Here's my
Dry Eye makes for a decent enough villain, but he's one of the more underdeveloped characters in this story. I think if this movie was longer, we would have seen more of a relationship between him and Lord George. I imagine there was a draft that showed more of a dynamic between them, with him being the gun-ho new generation, while George is the wise older man who knows the rules of the game and is trying to keep the peace. Lord George tells Dry Eye to stand down, scolding him for his insubordination. Of course, Dry Eye decides to ignore his seniors, has one of his men kill George, and go after the biggest fish in the pond, initiating a conflict. Henry Golding is a good actor, but he doesn't get to do much here other than look tough before he's killed off and made an example of. However, like Berger, Dry Eye plays an important part in setting things in motion. He pays off an underling named Fahawk to leak the location of the farm to some wannabe gangsters.
What was I thinking? Leaving you kids alone unsupervised.
Take it down! Now!
After Mickey rejects Dry Eye's offer, a group of MMA fighters and aspiring YouTube stars called the Toddlers raid the farm.
Hey, Cesar!
Who are these jokers? Mal! Who's this cunt?
John? Oh, hello. That's Army.
I love how each guy calls all the negs to the point where they actually outnumber the Toddlers. It's almost like a Monty Python bit. However, their actions catch the ire of their trainer, Coach, played by Colin Farrell. As penance, he offers his services to Raymond and proves himself right away with a henchman named Fahuk.
Alright, Fahuk, down.
But they don't get much out of him as he derails their momentum. Bugsy Malone is the standout of the group as Ernie, who gets the most lines and is the de facto head of the group. The fact that he's a rapper in real life probably had something to do with it. By now, you can probably guess the outcome of these characters. Interesting enough to carry a scene or two, but don't have a whole lot of substance.
Hey, Ernie, what are you doing? Why aren't you training your black cunt? I'm on my own here.
Did he just call me a black cunt?
Yes, he did.
You can't do that, that's racist.
But you are black and you are the cunt, Ernie. Those are the facts.
Coach and the Toddlers seem to pop up at the most random of occasions, almost serving as a because the plot demands it group of characters. Let's look at the ending segment. At this point, the Toddlers are thinking about going after Mickey, believing that Coach would want them to take him out, only for them to wipe out a couple of Russian hitmen who posed as Mickey's driver and bodyguard. But why are Russian hitmen after him? Well, earlier in the movie, one of the addicts got pushed out of the apartment and took a tumble. Turns out that one of them, a guy named Aslan, was the son of a Russian oligarch. He's tracked down Mickey and is about to get his own pound of flesh until the hitmen are gunned down. So in a weird roundabout way, the Toddlers actually ended up saving Mickey's life, and Mickey escapes. If this sounds all too convenient, there is a level of meta to this that makes some of the events susceptible to the unreliable narrator trope.
Ching, ching.
Fletcher.
Buenos tardes, Raimundo.
The whole story is being told by Fletcher, played by Hugh Grant, who was put on assignment by Big Dave, played by Eddie Marsan, to expose the connection between Mickey and Lord Pressfield. Why? He's the editor of a tabloid called The Daily Print, who was snubbed at a party in front of many aristocrats. Fletcher is a captivating storyteller, weaving in recollection of events with the occasional snarky comment.
But not digital, not on a memory stick. Analog, chemical process. Keep the grain in the picture, I say. Old school, 35mm.
I love how Fletcher is this old school cinephile, and how they make his character a bit meta, but not so much that it completely breaks the fourth wall. Oh, except for that one bit.
Talking about the small screen, it's not TV, Raymond. As I said, old school cinema format. And I want you to join me on this cinematic journey, because it is cinema, Ray. It's beautiful, beautiful cinema.
The cool thing is how Fletcher pretty much goes through the beats of the movie, but it never feels like he's spoiling anything. As the evening wears on, he regales Raymond with everything he knows, and that he's taken his knowledge and put it into a screenplay. However, he's willing to let things go for £20 million. After telling everything he knows, he returns to Raymond the following morning, looking for an answer, only for Raymond to reveal that he's tracked Fletcher and now has all the dirt he needs. But you know how earlier when I said the Russians had tracked down Mickey? Well, that's because Fletcher had told the Russians about them, prompting a final shootout where both Coach and Toddlers save Mickey and Raymond. From that, we see that this final segment is being told from Fletcher's perspective, with an executive wanting details about the ending.
No, 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 my darling. What you need is a sequel.
So it seems that Fletcher was able to get away, and is still trying to sell his screenplay, as it would be his last attempt to tell his story with some built-in plausible deniability. It then caps off in a similar fashion as the beginning.
So it's Heathrow Airport, please, Terminal 3, and thence to sunny California.
Buenas tardes, Fletcher Mondo.
The pair of them heading off, presumably so that Raymond can teach Fletcher a thing or two, while Mickey continues to enjoy ruling his marijuana empire. Oh, and Big Dave, the guy who sent Fletcher on this path to bring down Mickey? He gets kidnapped and drugged by the Toddlers and is made to recreate the first episode of Black Mirror.
And that's your doing. You can't unsee it once you've seen it, can you?
No, you can't unsee it. It's nightmare fuel. That'll be with me forever.
So, that's been sorted. The Gentleman was one of the first movies to come out in 2020, and for a year that quickly went sideways, at least the movie got to enjoy a decent theatrical run and a sizable box office return. If his upcoming projects are anything to go off on, he's back to making the crime capers that built his career. At least until he needs another Czech project, in which case he'll be back to direct Aladdin 2. This movie is a fun romp, brimming with creativity from a director who was thought to be growing dull. There are some underdeveloped characters, and at times it feels like Guy Ritchie is trying too hard to tie every little subplot detail back to the main story, but it never becomes an awkward balancing act, and it rewards those of us who've been paying close attention. The characters are interesting enough that you would want to see more of them, and even though some get more attention than others, each one has enough of a personality that makes their screen presence pop. I can strongly recommend seeing it at least once in a theater. With that, we are finally out of 2019 and into the 2020 movie season. Okay, next episode, definitely a 2020 release. Like, true and proper 2020.